Hello, young scholars. This is Mr. Martyr, and welcome to AP Government and Politics. And in class, we've been talking about the messy love story, the legislative process. One of the reasons why that process is so messy is because of the filibuster. In the Senate, the senators can take to the floor and hold the floor for as long as they want, and they can speak about any topic they want. The rules are you cannot sit down, and you cannot yield the floor. Under Senate rules, if you have 60 senators agreeing to end the debate, they can invoke what is called cloture, which ends the filibuster. In our increasingly polarized politics, getting 60 senators to agree on anything is a tall order. And the record for the longest filibuster was Strom Thurmond, who spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes when he tried to block the Civil Rights Act in 1957. That record was broken by our very own New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, who spoke for 25 hours and 5 minutes discussing and debating the policies of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. During parts of his debate, he highlighted the importance of separation of powers as highlighted by James Madison in Federalist 51. So let's take a look as Senator Booker explains the importance of separation of powers and why there needs to be legislative and congressional oversight over the executive.
Let's talk about the separation of powers. There's many different cases right now. But we know that James Madison, the founding father who devised the basic framework of our Constitution, devoted some of the Federalist Papers to the ways the Constitution addresses the danger of concentrating too much power in one person or one branch of government. Written in 1788, Madison's words still have resonance today. This is what he wrote in Federalist 487. The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elective, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. And so what is this president trying to do? He's trying to jam any court decision that's not in his favor, and either the judge is corrupt and should be impeached, or he's just going to deny the ruling or not follow it. Madison explained that the Constitution set up the executive, legislative, and judiciary branches to be separate and distinct and equal and bound together by checks and balances. Quote, "It is agreed on all sides that the powers properly belonging to one of the branches ought not to be directly and completely administered by either of the other branches. It is equally evident that none of them ought to possess directly or indirectly an overruling influence over the others in the administration of their executive respective powers." That's Federalist 48. I'm nerdy enough to have a favorite Federalist paper. I'm going to read from my favorite one, Federalist 51. In order to lay a due foundation for the separate and distinct exercise of the different powers of government essential to the preservation of liberty, it is evident that each department should have a will of its own, so constituted that each should have as little agency as possible in the appointment of the members of the others. But the great security against a gradual concentration of the several powers in the same department consists in giving to those who administer each department the necessary constitutional means to resist the encroachments of the others. To resist the encroachments of the others. We're not doing that in the Senate or in the House. It may, Federalist 51 continues, it may be a reflection on human nature that such devices should be necessary to control the abuses of government. And here's the quote, folks. Here's the quote from our founders. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. But our president is no angel. In framing a government, this is 51 continuing, in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the government, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. They are talking about, at great length, our founders and the separation of powers and the checks and balances of these institutions, and yet for 72 days of this administration has the Congress, Article 1, the People's House, the Senate, the deliberative body, have we once held this president to account? The most powerful man in the world and the richest man in the world.
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Let's be bolder in America with a vision that inspires, with hope that starts with the people of the United States of America. That's how this country started. We, the people. Let's get back to the ideals that others are threatening. Let's get back to our founding documents, that those imperfect geniuses had some very special words at the end of the Declaration of Independence. It was one of the greatest in all of humanity declarations of interdependence. When our founders said we must mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We need that now from all Americans. This is a moral moment. It's not left or right, it's right or wrong. Let's get in good trouble. My friend, Madam President, I yield the floor.